Real programmers don't use React. Baby dicks need AI for a fact. Real programmers still code in C. Baby dicks can't get no P. Real programmers got Linux and Tux. Baby dicks need React and Rust. Real programmers don't need AI. Baby dicks can't get no thighs. Real programmers don't need to rewrite. Baby dicks try and it don't come out right. Real programmers got libraries. Baby dicks don't get no flurries. Real programmers got pull requests. Baby dicks, they can't get breast. Real programmers don't need CI. Baby dicks don't get no I. Real programmers don't need RPA. Baby dicks can't get no date. Real programmers don't use Slack. Baby dicks can't get no back. Real programmers use Fortran. Baby dicks are not real man. Real programmers still use Kabul. Baby dicks don't get no hole.
Oh, vibe coder do think you're hot with your AI, but your code's as limp as your game, and I'm here to say why. You're bragging about your money, but your ego's overblown. Your tech's a messy hookup, leaving chaos in its own. Your A is like your mama, sleeping round, no shame, gobbling up the data like she's playing a dirty game. It's hallucinating nonsense, spitting lies to every dude, while you're jerking to your keyboard thinking you're the coolest brood. Your AI's a sloppy mess, just like your mom's affairs. Fake news, deep fakes, it's a scandal, no one cares. No one knows its logic, cause it's dumber than your face. Vibe coder, take a seat, you're a tech world disgrace. Vibe coder, oh you're small, in your pants and in your brain. Your AI's like your mom, gobbling wieners in the fast lane. You're proud of all your money, but your code a total flop. I'm laughing at your hustle, vibe code, time to stop. You're stealing people's work, yeah, your AI's got no class. Like your mom at the buffet, gobbling everything that's passed. It's out here faking stories, ruining lives with every click, while you're stroking your own ego, thinking you're so slick. Your tech's a black box mystery, no one knows what's up. Like your tiny little pecker, it's a secret you can't strut. It lies and says it's got it, but it's bluffing through the chat. Boy, your AI's like your mama, loose and full of crap. Your AI's a sloppy mess, just like your mom's affairs. Fake news, deep fakes, it's a scandal, no one cares. No one knows its logic, cause it's dumber than your face. Vibe coder, take a seat, you're a tech world disgrace. Vibe coder, oh you're small, in your pants and in your brain. Your AI's like your mom, gobbling wieners in the fast lane. You're proud of all your money, but your code's a total flop. I'm laughing at your hustle, vibe coder, time to stop. Let's talk about your package, yeah, it's smaller than your dreams. Can't penetrate a firewall, let alone a girl's blue jeans. Your AI's out here whoring, sleeping round with every bot, while your mom's still in the backseat, giving all she's got. You're cashing in on chaos, but your vibe's a total joke. Your code's as weak as your game, boy, your swagger's going broke. I'm spitting truth, no filter,
Almost ready,
while
folks.
you're crying in your chair. Vibe coder, face the facts, your AI's a nightmare. Vibe coder, oh you're small, in your pants and in your brain. Your AI's like
All right,
your mom, gobbling.
stop the music. What's up, everyone? Good to see you. I'm behind on everything today, but I've got my coffee and a whole bunch of articles. You know, this morning I woke up and I looked at the backlog that I have of all the different news articles to go over, and I thought to myself, given enough time today, I might be running low on articles to discuss, but two things stood out to me. One, some of the articles that we're going to go over today are a bit, will require a bit more time, so this might be a bit of a longer stream. And two, when I went to catch the latest articles of the day, there were many. There were oh so many. My Chrome tabs made my fans go burr. Yeah, I don't see a shortage of stuff to go over anytime soon. I think the tech industry's moronic decisions as a whole continues unabated. Not just unabated. In fact, it continues to speed at impressive rates never before seen. And so to that end, good morning to everybody who's watching, whether you're on Kick, Rumble, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, Twitch, wherever you're watching from. I appreciate all the support and all the views. So speaking of moronic decisions, I have long made the case that it is the tech industry's self-neutering. They have essentially lopped their own strengths off, and they have, whatever. They've transformed themselves into but a mere shadow of what made tech great. And as a result, many companies are relying on more ads and subscriptions and selling your data in order to make up for the fact that they do not know how to produce anything of quality anymore. And people aren't willing to pay them for these things. For example, we have people who created the Spotify app and then think themselves to be like God's gift to programmers. There's a person named Adam Rakis who is online on X and continues to kind of promote himself through his words and actions as some kind of tech genius because he built the shittiest MP3 player known to man called Spotify, or at least he participated in that shittery, and then he thinks he's awesome. However, into the news. Exclusive! Amazon doubles Prime Video ads to 6 minutes per hour. And this is ads that are playing on videos that you're playing and also on the application. There's really not much to go over here except that it was a bit silent. That's really the only there's only really two things to this article. One, it's gone from 4 minutes to 6 minutes per hour. Well, no, sorry, that's the range. It's double that, right? So 2-ish to 3-ish minutes per hour, and now it's 4 to 6 minutes per hour. And the second thing is that they told the advertisers that they were going to do this, but they didn't really tell anyone else. What's up, birds on YouTube? And by the way, good to see you, Laughly, on Twitch, and good to see you too, Ghost, on Twitch. So this just continues to well, maybe not prove my point, but it continues to add to my point that these companies, they don't know. They don't know what they're doing anymore. They don't know how to make money anymore. And so they just need to litter you with ads and ad revenue instead of focusing on stuff that should matter. Like, oh, I don't know. Maybe like actually build a quality product. Maybe that. But barring that, let's just go into squeezing every single penny we can out of the existing poor quality stuff that we have. Now, let's get into some of the cybersecurity stuff. I have a few of those. I have some AI papers. There's a lot going on today. We're going to cover it all. Discord Flaw lets hackers reuse expired invites in malware campaign. So here's the long and short of it. On Discord, you can generate an invitation link. Sometimes that link can be temporary, sometimes it can be permanent, sometimes it can be custom. And there are special instances of these. Yeah, here we go. They're perks for level 3 Discord servers. So when you boost a Discord server, then it gives you a special way to create these invitation links. What hackers are doing, or what nefarious people are doing, is they are leveraging literally a lowercase, uppercase issue with these invitation links, like the one you're seeing here. This invitation link can actually be used for 2 different servers if you change the uppercase P here to a lowercase p. So you could have the exact same characters, the exact same alphabet characters, but simply the alteration of uppercase and lowercase means that it will lead you to 2 different servers. So what you can do is you can go back to generated links, and all you have to do is change the case of the invitation link, and then it looks like a legitimate link from a legitimate server, and Discord will honor it. And then you can utilize it to lead to your own server or to lead to other kinds of links. So please be careful out there. This is a very easy way to circumvent people's, first of all, the people check, which is, can someone who looks at one of these links like literally determine whether it's the correct link or not? And then second, Discord not doing proper handling of expired links, and just simply changing the case of them can make it so that you can bypass you can bypass the typical checks that would happen on active links. It's kind of a crazy thing that Discord will let happen. But okay, let's talk a little bit about AI. I've peppered some security stuff with AI stuff here. What's up, Laughing Panda? Good to see you. Laughing Panda on Twitch says, bad news in tech makes my uppercase P a lowercase p. Yep. That makes those P's real soft, right? Scientific proof right there. Careful, can make your P very small. AI-powered cloud creates AI-powered risks. So people are obviously using AI to generate cloud infrastructure. And as we all know, does anybody pay attention to the security risks of doing this with AI systems? We already have a whole bunch of security risks. You can just look at the counter below, which I should probably set to 300, just 300 flat. It's been another day. But in any case, it's fine. So we already had security measures on the cloud before. We know how risky AI is with regards to security measures. And now we're just going to use it to create cloud infrastructure. I think this counter is going to skyrocket now. So what this article essentially goes over is just 1 or 2 items here that I think are worth mentioning. As an illustration, AI training data is susceptible to data poisoning, threatening to skew model results, for example, it talks about. And then it says researchers calculated that almost 70% of cloud AI workloads contain at least one unpremeditated or non-premeditated vulnerability. Rather concerning was the discovery that 3 out of 4 organizations using one specific cloud provider for AI services were found to have overprivileged default configurations. This is dubbed the Jenga style concept. The research found a tendency for cloud providers to build one service on top of the other, with behind-the-scenes building blocks inheriting risky defaults from one layer to the next. So where's Owen from yesterday? So that he understands this. This is why I argue against these abstractions and libraries and frameworks, because you get people who are full of themselves building the crappiest MP3 player on the planet like Spotify, and then you get crap like this where one bad fundamental underlying piece of architecture undoes the entirety of it. Any single misconfigured service puts all the services built on top of it at risk. The result is users are left largely unaware of the existence of these behind-the-scenes building blocks, as well as any propagated risk. And then, of course, as we cover here all the time, you have people with nefarious reasons who probe these cloud infrastructures and utilize this to their advantage. So I suspect that not only are we going to see a time where more work than we know how to handle is going to exist to clean up code, but also to clean up cloud infrastructure. That's what I think. I think it's going to happen soon. What's up, Alpha Beta on Twitch? Good to see you. Welcome in. Okay, hang on. D-Daver, good to see you on the Twitch side. By the way, if you're on any one of the other platforms, I can see all your comments, so feel free to engage. Excuse me. AI comes to the URL with a new web browser that answers you back. The browser company's, which is literally the name of the company, is literally called the browser company. New Dia platform lets you talk to your tabs. So yes, there is a browser. I'll give you the short of it because this is painful to read. You have a browser with AI built in. You can ask the AI whatever questions you want. You prompt it through the URL bar, and it will do things like read the page out loud for you. It will summarize the articles. It will do web searches for you, etc. And it's based on Chromium. So if you thought that your Chromium was laggy before, just imagine now what it's like. It's more laggy with less features and more confusion with AI. Can't wait to pay for that. Now, as a result of recent policy changes in the United States, at least, there's a push, I believe by Donald Trump, if I remember correctly, to start building chips in America. Okay. I'm Canadian, so I have a different, and also I'm very Greek. Okay. So I don't have a very big dog in the race, but I believe that the intent is that to have America create their own chips, at home, instead of relying on external nations like, China or whatever for a bunch of their manufacturing. And in the pursuit of that goal, China was at least somewhat, if not greatly, restricted from being able to utilize American chips, essentially. There were limits or restrictions on how China could use American manufactured stuff or stuff that America got their hands on in terms of chips. Now, what this means is, let's say that Taiwan, builds these amazing chips. It ends up in America. America uses them to train their AI, but China can't get their hands on it because they're restricted from using those chips. They can't really go into Taiwan to get those things. It's just an example. I'm kind of generalizing a bit here. I might have some of the details wrong, but you get the sense of it. So what does China do? China wants to train their AI as well. And how do they circumvent this? Well, I hate that Slashdot doesn't let me zoom in properly. It's really stupid. In any case, they smuggle AI hardware into China through third countries. They substitute domestic chips for American ones. But it's become more difficult to do all those things. So instead of that, they take their data, they put it into a hard drive. They're training data for their AI models. They put it into a hard drive. Then they ping around from, literally fly through Malaysia and Singapore, carrying these suitcase-filled hard drives of training data. They end up in America, and then they use America chips to train the data. Then they put that trained data back into the hardware or into the hard drives, back in those briefcases, and they travel back. Easy mode. That's it. That's how easy it is. Crazy. Those Chinese are crazy, man. I'm telling you. Crazy lot. The whole bunch of them. All right. Now, if you thought the software the software capturing of cars was coming to an end, I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. Smart tires will report on the health of roads in new pilot program. Yeah, there's sensor-equipped tires. They're going to tell you the, what would you call it, the health of the tire itself and the health of the road it's passing over. Yeah, that's it. So it's going to use Bluetooth Low Energy, and it's going to, I don't know, keep track of some stuff. I'm not entirely sure what. And then you'll just be able to have software that gives you all kinds of supposedly really good, accurate, never wrong, never incorrect, never failing data about your tires and the general state of roads that it drives over. Surely, this cannot be used for anything negative. Surely this will work 100% of the time. It will never fail, and it will never have any downsides to people's livelihoods and health and safety. Absolutely, it just will never happen. This is nothing but perfect, right? This is completely smart. And, you know, has anybody ever asked why? Why? Why is this needed? Did anybody who built this ask why? I don't know. I mean, we seem to have been doing fine for a very long time without this crap, but apparently we need it. Smart microplastics, when they're coming. They're coming, D-Daver. Hackers are using Google.com to deliver malware by bypassing antivirus software. Here's how to stay safe. So here's the long and short of it. There is a Google OAuth link, which kind of looks like, let me see if I can find it here. I think it's down like this one, right? So it kind of looks like this. Then what they do is they append a query parameter to this link, and it's essentially a JavaScript payload as part of this query parameter. It decodes and runs obfuscated JavaScript payloads. It uses the eval A to B. So it literally just goes from base 64 and reverse, essentially. And so they can just provide you a completely valid looking link with some gobbledygook in the query parameter. You wouldn't know any different. And you click on that link, and then it executes JavaScript on your browser, and that allows you to start tracking or funneling information to wherever you want to funnel it to. So again, be careful out there. That stuff looks legitimate. It would even open up a legitimate Google pop-up for your authentication for your account. And so it's quite risky because you wouldn't really know the difference ultimately, unless you're looking at things. This is the state that this industry has come to, where you literally have to check the uppercase, lowercase of Discord links, and you have to check the query parameters of otherwise innocuous links. This is the state we're in, where you cannot even trust a basic link. You literally have to deconstruct and check the link itself. And not just you, like we have an advantage. Most of the viewers who are watching this have the advantage that we know how these things operate and we know how to deconstruct them. And we have the programming chops, let's say, to deal with these issues or to confirm that these things are good or not good. But most people out there do not have the same knowledge. And so they just click a link and away they go. Now, AI Barbies. Mattel and OpenAI announce strategic collaboration. So this was on June 12th. And Mattel and OpenAI here. So this is Mattel's website, and they've got a press release. And hey, we love that we have partnered up with OpenAI. We're going to bring the magic of AI to age-appropriate play experiences with an emphasis on innovation, privacy, and safety. Yes, I am sure that you're going to nail all of those. You're going to nail innovation, you're going to nail privacy, and you're going to nail safety, because we all know OpenAI has an incredible track record of all of the above. With more than 80 years of earned trust from parents and families, Mattel has decided that they would like to flush all of that down the toilet by partnering with OpenAI to emphasize safety, privacy, and security in the products and experiences that come to market. They will incorporate, in addition, they will incorporate OpenAI's advanced AI tools like ChatGPT Enterprise into its business operations. So, it's not enough that we are going to leverage AI in Barbies. But now, on top of all that, we're also going to leverage AI internally. This is definitely not a recipe for disaster. And let's not even talk about the safety of children who are going to be talking to their what's the one which is like the soldiers. There's one Mattel creates that are like the soldiers. I can't remember the name of it. There's a few they create. Barbie is one of them. There's no risk to children and their well-being talking to an AI system that I have proven on these streams almost on a per episode basis are full of serious issues. And we're about to go over a big one later on the stream. There's no risk at all to children being inadvertently or advertently, depending on how much of a conspiracy theorist you are and how much you love Alex Jones. Maybe this is on purpose. I don't know. But at the very least, inadvertently, there's no way children are going to suffer by talking to an AI-powered Barbie, right? Nothing will go wrong. Everything's perfect. Now what you can do as a parent as well, you thought that it was easy to have YouTube shorts or Instagram reels or whatever babysit your kids for hours on end while you drink yourself into a stupor throughout the day, regretting your life decisions like an idiot that you are. Don't worry, Barbie's gotcha. Now, kids can have endless fun with AI Barbie as they reduce their cognitive abilities so that they are the most brain-dead generation up and coming, while you drink even more with the abundance of time that you have available to you as a crappy parent. Now, there's let me just pull this up here. There was somebody on there's somebody I debated on a Discord channel. Let me pull these two articles right now. So this person I debated, well, I actually debated two people on a Discord channel, and both of them were making the case for AI being an incredible future thing. One of them stated that they, I believe if I remember correctly, they replaced a bunch of their customer service representatives in their company with AI, and thus AI good because of their anecdotal experience. I could not dig deeper into that line of reasoning because they had to pop out. But another person said that they had walked out of some kind of Google internal meeting where the Google AI systems were meeting and exceeding internal benchmarks. And so there was a big push for people in Google to use AI more and promote it more. And this person thoroughly believed that AI was going to kind of take over the world and eliminate large swaths of finances and industry and all of that. And they presented to me this article, AI 2027, where a bunch of leading people in AI apparently are saying that we're only a few years away from general intelligence, or at the very least, even if we don't get to general intelligence, these things are making such dramatic improvement and they're hitting benchmarks at such dramatic levels that pretty soon we're going to have some serious problems on our hand with people out of work. Those were the arguments made by smooth-brained idiots who think that this is actually going to happen. However, that's not what's really happening. All of the things I just mentioned to you are from people who desperately need and want AI to save them from their own stupidity, or they're heavily invested in AI, and so they need it to play out properly. They need to hype it up and they need to market it. This is marketing material 101, and it's incredible that people buy into it so much. This article and a few others literally go and tackle the details of this article, which was presented to me as some kind of, superior case for like why I should be worried about AI. However, when looking at the people who are currently investing in AI, the problem that they see is not that AI is going to lead to artificial general intelligence, nor that it's going to make some overwhelming jump in terms of its capabilities, but rather it's the scale. They've already given up on AGI, artificial general intelligence, and they've already given up on any significant performance boost or output boost on the state of AI in general. So there were 475 AI researchers in this report. So if you want to look it up, it's right here, The Future of AI Research, from the Association for the Advancement of Artificial Intelligence. So it's all here. You can look this up. And 76% of the respondents said that the likelihood of AI to surpass human cognition was unlikely or very unlikely to succeed. They also said that AGI is at an end game. It's a dead end, and that they see the amount of money being poured into these kinds of, hey, let's improve the output, let's try and get AGI better. They see the money poured into those as money down the drain. So the only play that's left is the scaling of essentially the current AI systems. We would have to undergo a dramatically different path to get AI to be of any usefulness. It would have to be a very different paradigm than what AI currently does right now, particularly with large language models. And so the only thing that we really have in our tool belt is the ability to scale up with nuclear power plants, a little bit of time-based, just taking a bit more time to train these things, more larger context windows, etc. That's it. That's about it. So if anybody comes to you making grandiose claims of future predictions where AI is going to take over the world, there's really only two things that you have to do. First of all, ask them to prove it. They can't. Most will default to anecdotal experience, which is not proof. Second, you do have proof. You have all the historical evidence that I've been laying out on these daily tech news streams. The historical evidence is a way to describe how things are today. And from that, you can take the previous history of these systems and then extrapolate the same amount of actual, observed, and metricized improvements over the long term. Anybody that exceeds those bounds is just bullshitting you. They've bought into the multi-level marketing scheme of AI, and they're too smooth-brained to understand that they have done so. And in fact, one of the persons I debated on that Discord channel was literally unwilling to accept evidence for a different topic from a different set of experts. Okay, I won't get into it because sometimes terms of service will flag you for saying particular things. And they were saying, well, I wouldn't trust those experts because they're just trying to sell you something about a certain topic. But I'll trust these experts because I had an anecdotal positive experience with AI. This is... It's so low tier. Okay, a few more cybersecurity ones. Over 269,000 websites infected with JS Firetruck JavaScript malware in 1 month. Now, what is JS Firetruck? It's really just JS fuck, which I have used to prove that AI does not know how to code. It cannot reason or create logical structures such that it can give you something that logically makes sense for programming. I've proven that on stream before. I'm happy to prove it again. Sup, Ross on Twitch. Good to see you. And that's what JS fuck is. You can go back, you can go check it out. Now, what's happening here is that people are using JS fuck in order to obfuscate JavaScript code so that it can do things like right here, it will run inside of URLs, kind of like the URL we went over with the A to B stuff, or inside of JavaScript code on particular pages. You can't tell the difference. You wouldn't recognize it. Maybe it's served up through advertising, whatever the case might be. And it does all kinds of things like funnel your data, track you, get cookie stuff. I don't know, like all kinds of stuff, right? So again, this is the state of the industry where we can't trust basic stuff that operates on anything. It's crazy. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, is that there's AI can't generate this kind of code. It can't. Proven it can't. Virginia mortgage firm hack exposes thousands of customers. So a bunch of data was exposed from this mortgage firm, and that includes, okay, if you're in Virginia and you have a mortgage, first and last names, social security numbers, driver's license numbers, and financial account numbers. So be careful out there. Trust no one. That's right, Ghost. Be careful out there. Just another one. So there were 30,000 individuals. Okay, so it's just another instance of your information being out there. Let's have a look at this one. Tip of the iceberg. Thousands of UK students caught cheating with AI. One more time. Not even the king is safe from all this crap. So obviously, students are using AI to create essays, to answer questions, to otherwise accomplish tasks that are given to them in academic settings. The survey of academic integrity violations found almost 7,000 proven cases of cheating using AI tools in 2023-2024, equivalent to 5.1 for every 1,000 students. That's up from 1.6 cases per 1,000 in 2022 to 2023. And it's going to get worse because in May, apparently it's going to go up to 7.5 proven cases per 1,000 students. So these students are absolutely using AI to cheat. And as a result, what do you think is going to happen to the learning potential of these students as they continue to cheat this way? Like, what are they actually going to learn? What's up, One Allergen? Thank God I didn't have AI in my early 20s. I would have cheated on everything. Yeah, we really dodged a serious issue there. Next. Over 8 million exposed after major car sharing app breach. Zoomcar, India's largest peer-to-peer car sharing app, has suffered a data breach. The sensitive details of millions of customers have been exposed. Names, phone numbers, car registration numbers, personal addresses twice. This was probably written by AI. Email addresses. There's no indication of financial information, plain text password, or other sensitive information, but this is plenty. This is all you need to cause all kinds of havoc if you're a nefarious actor. So be careful out there in India. What's up, Josh? On YouTube, good to see you. One Allergen, I wonder when Grammarly will make edits and then get papers flagged. Yeah. Ross, insert Primeagen, AI is good for learning take. Yes. I'm going to get into that in a bit. because I'm going to be bringing up some scientific articles, and I'm calling out Primogen primarily. Primogen is essentially now just a sellout for AI, and he's screwing everybody over for his own personal gain. I'm just going to call it. With Theo, at least he was very open about his stupidity, but Primogen kind of hides it and claims himself to be an expert. And instead what he's doing is he's just selling himself out. He's selling out his principles. He should not be someone people should look up to, but I'll go into that a little bit later. Josh says, I remember my friend having a calculator watch cheating on math back in the day. I remember that too. Yeah, I absolutely remember that too. All right. Then we have this guy, WestJet, investigating cyber breach, warns of fraud risk. So be careful if you're in Canada, eh? Okay, careful if you're in Canada. So they suffered a cybersecurity incident, which, by the way, is still ongoing, last I checked, because this was a few days ago. And they're still having issues with it. There's no conclusion to this yet. But essentially what happened here is that some information got accessed. That's about all they can say. The details of the information, how many people, etc. As far as I can tell, there's no indication that there's information on that right now. But I just wanted to bring that up in case you're in Canada and you've ever used WestJet. Yeah, that could be a thing. Okay, we have this one. No chill on Theo, not you, it's me. Yeah, no chill on Theo. Yeah, yeah. I trust no one, especially not streamers. Yeah, there's something that I was talking about with someone else with regards to the tech industry. The tech industry has become too soft. Real talk, it's too soft. Primogen, for example, banned someone on his chat the other day. I can't remember, it was like last week or something, because they were being a bit mean. And he said something to the effect of, this space is so small, we just don't need this kind of attitude here. How about fuck you? I think the time for being nice and having comfy conversations about tech and programming has long passed. The tech industry is in such dire shape that we don't need people to be nice to each other and tone police and, stupid, moronic, snowflake ideas like that. What we need is people having an opinion and then battling that out. That's what we really need. We need people to wake up. And sometimes you have to be very open, which can come across as offensive. But actually what's offensive is being soft. That's what's actually offensive, because what people are essentially saying when they're saying like, oh, you should be soft and gentle, is that you shouldn't give a shit near as much as you should give a shit. It's not always the case that somebody who is passionate or says something that is offensive to you comes from a bad place. Sometimes it comes from a good place. As a matter of fact, if you're a parent of a child, you know this to be true, because if your child is about to do something that will especially permanently harm them, you're not going to be soft and gentle. You are going to shout, which might seem very alarming to the child who's about to stick their hand on the stove or whatever it is, but you do it because you care. And so I no longer buy into this bullshit idea that we have to be nice and comfy with each other when we're talking about these ideas. Go fuck yourself. That's my response. If you think that we still have to be nice to each other and tone police what we're saying, instead of being passionate and having actual conversations that sometimes get heated and actually try and figure out what the hell we're doing in order to show that we care about this industry, that we care about our craft, that we want to do things well, that the time for niceness is gone. Time for niceness is gone. I'd rather deal with offensiveness than deal with a sellout who lies to my face. Yes, and unfortunately, Primogen has become a sellout. Yes. Okay, let's keep going on the articles. Washington Post's email system hacked. Journalists' accounts compromised. So Washington Post here has an issue where some of their email accounts were hacked, and they believe it's a foreign government. That's their belief. The evidence isn't there. I haven't seen the evidence for this. Based on what I could find, at least, there was no evidence to prove that. They must have some kind of evidence that they think leads them to that conclusion. And I don't think it would be surprising if the Washington Post got hacked, because they have a lot of ties into, information that other countries would want to have access to, especially as part of journalism. I am going to be going into some other stuff like state-sponsored companies that use tools that allow them to hack and track journalists across the world. There was a recent article that I read about something that was going on in Italy with some journalists there. So this kind of thing doesn't surprise me, but I suspect, okay, I won't say anything more about it. I want to try and get some proof, but I think I understand why bad actors would want to hack and track information coming out of these journalistic, let's say, corporations or companies. I think I understand why. But I'm kind of building up some evidence here. So I just thought I'd bring this one. It's kind of the starting point. I have a few more articles that I'm going to go through soon, and I'm just going to kind of build it up and then try and present a case as to why I think this is happening more and more often. Can we start calling the sellouts AI simps just to help twist the dagger deeper? Yeah, AI simps. I like that. I like that. I'm going to steal that from you, One Allergen. As a matter of fact, I encourage all my viewers to start. We do have to, I'm not joking. We have to start humiliating and making fun of people who behave like this. So absolutely call them AI simps, 100%. Make fun of them and humiliate them. They can't keep getting away with this. We have to humiliate and shame them into not doing this crap. What about sellouts who admit they're sellouts and kind of joke about it, but move on with whatever they're doing? If they're actually open about it, at least that gives you, as the viewer, the ability to choose whether that's okay with you or not. Right? You get to choose at that point because you're informed about the truthfulness or lack thereof behind what they're saying. So you get to make that choice. That choice isn't being made for you at that point. More memes of Altman is a good story. Yeah. Yeah. Josh laughs. Yeah. No, yeah. It's the people who hide it, and they hide it because they make an appeal to authority. They hide it because they make stupid other types of like, other excuses, like virtue signaling excuses, things like this. They make the choice for you as to whether or not you're okay with them being a sellout. For example, this is one thing that, well, I know some streamers who do this. Who are very open, and they just like lean into the fact that they have sold out, and they'll just say it. They'll just be, look, I got a sponsor deal. I know that I've previously been saying this stuff, and there are like probably 2 streamers I can think of who have been very open about it. And they're like, look, it's hard to make money, right? Like, look at me, look at my tip jar has been at 68. Can we get that to 69? It's been like that for days. It's hard to make money as a streamer unless you're like a very big streamer, right? So sometimes people will just be brutally honest and they'll say, look, I had to sell out. I just want you guys to know that I'm doing this because I need to pay the bills. I understand if you need to leave. And they'll just be extremely honest about that. And it's like, okay, well then at that point, I would prefer that, because then I get to make the choice about like what I perceive that to be. That's now my decision, and I'm generally informed about that decision, right? Or they hide it because they know it's wrong. Yeah. Some of that is ironic, but I prefer that than what's actually going on. AH says, I saw a vid where Primogen was like, I would like to learn OCaml, but nobody wants to actually see that. Yes. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is Primogen this is the problem, right? Primogen has definitely sold out his principles. If you look at the history of like where he came from and some of the things he espouses, he has sold out on those principles more than once. And someone who has the weakness, the lack of balls to stand by his convictions and the principles he espouses, is that the kind of person you want to be participating as a leader in the tech industry? It gives you a frame of reference for character, right? What about sellouts who like aren't being sponsored by anyone, like AI shills, to kind of give into the slot but don't pretend they're authority? If they, okay, so then at that point, it's still up to you. They're not really hiding anything, but you have to be aware that they're buying into something that they're incapable of seeing the negatives of. Do you want to, would you like to participate in that? That's a choice that you get to make. Like people who vibe code, say it works for them, but isn't shilling it and understands its pitfalls. Okay, so then not you, it's me. If that's true, then they should be able to tell you the pitfalls. They should be able to articulate that. And if they qualify the premise upon which they use it, then yeah, absolutely. Like, then it's up to you, right? That's okay, because at least they're being honest and they understand the nuances of what they're doing. That is a far better position, even if they don't have full understanding. Like even I go through these articles. We're about to go through a few today, some really good ones. I'm going to be calling out Primogen even more today. It's going to be a Primogen bash AI thing because I'm just fucking done with these fuckers. But anyways, yeah. At least you have a better, more informed decision than being a sellout. Like, he says, don't watch, Korn, and then raids. Yeah, exactly. So Primogen had Code Miko on, and he'll tell you not to be a degenerate scumbag and not watch things of a sour nature in terms of like close to things that are like, of nudity, right? I can't say the word. You guys can say it in chat, but I can't say it. So we use the word corn in replacement of it. And then, he has a cleavage streamer on. He has religious backgrounds, which have some fundamental religious principles that he espouses. And he buddies up with people who go against those principles. He befriends them, and, he has no problem sucking up to people in order to do engagement. So he has literally sold out on his principles, background and all, in order to do the thing that he wants to do. Do as I say, not as I do. Yeah. Incredibly briefly, what did I stumble into? Well, let's keep going with the news. Incredible. Usually I cover the news, but just in particular today, some stuff came up. And so we're talking about streamers who are bullshitting you and themselves. And they are weak of character. They're weak of character. All right. I have one or two more articles, and then we're going to do some scientific ones about AI. AI is not doing its job and should leave us alone, says Gartner's top analyst. So this is a business firm. Yeah, incredible. Primogen and Theo in particular, but also Pirate Software as well falls into this group. Several others do as well. Orbiters around those people. They're just fucking stupid. But yeah, we'll cover that. So this is a business group. They get together, and we'll talk about it more. Incredible. They get together and they talk about stuff that's going on in business requirements. And I thought this was really interesting because 69 episodes on these daily tech news streams, and I've been covering how AI will not replace a large portion of business requirements for a number of different reasons, right? And so what happened during this summit, right, which happened in Sydney, Australia, because Australia isn't real, therefore this isn't real, they covered the use cases of AI in businesses. And they brought up some really interesting things that people don't consider when they integrate AI into their business, even if you're talking about simple things like scheduling or customer service. So one of the things they brought out, for example, is what happens when you have 50,000 agents running around the enterprise? How do you orchestrate this? How do you negotiate this? Brethano said he asked vendors how much automated scheduling would consider competing needs of an employee's boss, partner, or kids. Their response, he said, is silence. As the degree of complexity of your business increases, the degree of AI's capability to accomplish the tasks you set upon it decreases dramatically. And this isn't just a business case scenario, although I thought that this was very interesting because it's a very different take on how AI is being used in business. But we have covered this statistically. and scientifically. The level of complexity that's required to completely derail AI output and decision making is very small. You don't need to increase complexity very much in order to completely lose the plot with AI. So as a result of that, when you consider, or rather, not as a result of that, but when you take that and you apply it into an ever-changing, complicated landscape of AI, trying to do even the most simplest things, but scaled out to tens, hundreds, thousands of employees, you now have a problem on your hands where you cannot trust AI, especially multiple AI agents with competing agendas and competing tasks. How are you going to trust that all of these things are going to work in concert? So I thought this was a very a different take than just the science says AI can't do this. The actual use case of AI is limited. This was like a different perspective, and I thought I'd bring that out because it was very interesting. You recognize Pirate? Yeah. I went really hard on Code Miko when she was pushing her Mikoverse. Yeah. You like Tej? I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about Tej. He's an orbiter, unfortunately. And so, show me your friends, I'll tell you who you are, kind of a thing. I don't know. I don't know about Tej. He seems nice. I mean, frankly, all of the people, like Primogen, seems nice. He seems like a nice guy to hang out with, etc. It's not that these people are not nice people, or that they have they would, I don't know, throw you under the bus to save themselves kind of a thing. I'm sure that they're perfectly fine people, but there is a frame of character that you can absolutely see played out via their actions. And that should give you some insight into, how much you should or shouldn't trust them. 100%. I've been working with AI a bunch, and you have to really guide it and keep it on track for big complex tasks. It needs a human tender. Yes, incredible. So you're first time chatter, so you're kind of new here, right? But if you go on my YouTube, you can see on the live tab, and I think I have an enlightened programming playlist. I have a whole bunch of studies that literally go into this. I've been doing this for over a year now, building up all of this information on purpose. And for one example I like to point to, thank you, Laughly, there you go. One example I like to point to of a good use case is, other people have heard it. I'm sorry for the viewers who've heard this before 100 times. It's just a really good one to bring out. Doctors' breast cancer detection rates were something like 80% when they were doing it by themselves. They brought AI in and they added it as a supplementary aspect to their detection mechanisms. When they scrupulously and judiciously looked at the output of AI when it told them that there was a breast cancer potential rate in this X-ray, in other words, when the doctors essentially didn't trust AI as a default and then confirmed anything that it said, their detection rates through that human intervention with AI as supplementary went from 80% to somewhere above 90%, which is great. If you can take these systems, you narrow their scope greatly, and you come in with an immediately skeptical viewpoint on it, then you can absolutely use AI in good ways. So, it's good, right? Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at some deeper AI specific stuff, right? And this is going to lead into some of the things that I've been talking about. It would kind of jumped around all over the place today because I have so many different things. And then I have an article at the end that's a happy article. It's very cool. It's a very, very cool article, just to end everything on a happy note. We'll get into that. But let's talk about this. Whoever just did the like or subscribe or whatever, thank you. Okay, first things first here. There's one article and 3 studies. Now, in a recent video, Primogen, well, actually 2, there's another video coming up. That was you on YouTube. Thanks, incredible. Primogen has kind of shifted his tune. And thank you for the follow on Twitch. So his tune used to be that you probably shouldn't use AI. Theo, on the other hand, is one of the, like, he literally created an AI wrapper for a bunch of AI systems. And the reason why I bring them up in specific is because the articles I'm going over tie directly into these arguments. So Primogen has been doing more and more with Teach. He's been doing more and more AI based stuff. There's no evidence to back this up, but it seems relatively clear to me. It wouldn't be far-fetched to assume that he got sponsored by Cursor, for example. They spent a whole bunch of time doing Cursor stuff, which is an IDE, integrated development environment. And his tune started to change. And in a recent video that he released, and a recent live stream as well, which hasn't become a video just yet, I think it's called the Cursor Delusion. I believe it's the title of the video. I'm not even going to bring it up because I just don't think it's even, I'm not even willing to give him, that kind of attention, because I really do think he's doing a disservice, a massive disservice. And anyways, he was open about it. Well, there you go. So he literally sold out in favor of AI companies. And not surprisingly, to a weak sellout like him, who doesn't have the balls to stand by the principles that he espoused at first, which is a typical thing that you see with Prime given enough time. So now what he's saying in that Cursor Delusion video is he said two things. One, you can absolutely use AI to learn and educate yourself about programming. Absolute bullshit. Two, he, within a one fell breath, he didn't even pause. He said, the code that Cursor generates isn't that bad, but it's not always great. I've changed something along those lines. You can quote me. You can go on the video. There's some. You know what? Let me just freaking pull it up so I get this right. Just one sec. Okay, I just want to be very clear about it. I've changed my tune a little bit when it comes to AI. I no longer insult them for generating crap code. I mean, the code is unusable, generally speaking. So in one fell breath, he, on the one hand, will say that he's not going to criticize AI for generating bad code, and then on the other hand say, but they generate unusable code. And can you see the problem? Can you see the logical problem with that kind of a statement? The reason why someone would say something like that is because they do not want to upset the money that gets funneled to them by their AI overlords whom they have sold out to. Now, let's dig into some of these articles so that it's not just me ranting on a soapbox about other people, so that it's me telling you that you have to be really, 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 really fucking careful about these low-tier, smooth-brained, unprincipled streamers who are telling you the worst absolute bullshit on the face of the planet. And by the way, it's not just streamers. There are plenty of other people who have a lot of clout online based on stuff that they've done, that they point to their success as if that's a logical argument for repeating the thing that they're doing, which is not a logical argument. Appeal to authority and appeal to success are not good ways to demonstrate that something is good for you to do. So we have this article here. How do Olympiad medalists judge LLMs in competitive programming? And so what they did here was they took a bunch of international Olympiad medalists with regards to human code, or not human code, sorry, benchmark code. And they made them judge the output of human code versus AI code. It's a 584 problem study drawn from Codeforce's ICPC and IOI contests. Some of you might know it if you've ever seen some of these contests. It shows the best frontier models cleared just 53% of medium difficulty tasks on their first attempt and none of the hard ones, while grandmaster level humans routinely solve at least some of those highest tier problems. The researchers measured models and humans on the same ELO scale caused by Codeforces and found that OpenAI's O4 Mini High, when stripped of terminal tools and limited to one try per task, lands at an ELO rating of 2,116, hundreds of points below the Grandmaster cutoff and roughly the 1.5 percentile among human contestants. In short, summarizing all this, AI cannot achieve even one of the hardest problems in these code-based competitions. The issue is even exacerbated more where, fine, they can solve some medium difficulty tasks, but the more that you have to engage with them. So this is exactly what it means. I insert a prompt and hit enter, right? And I ask it to solve a medium difficulty task. In some cases, AI will get it right. But when it doesn't get it right, I then have to do a follow-up prompt. Nope, you got this wrong. Make an adjustment here, there, or otherwise. We are now in what's called a multi-turn engagement, which is that you have to prompt it several times. As you enter that multi-turn engagement, there is an immediate drop-off of the AI being able to actually answer the questions that you're asking it. So the more you have to engage with it, if you can't one-shot it, your risk of getting a successful output precipitously drops. That's essentially what's going on here. And I did cover a previous scientific article we went over where there was a study done on the energy usage variance between AI solving programming problems and humans solving programming problems. And it was discovered that AI takes something like 452 times more energy than a human being to solve the most basic coding problems in terms of just raw energy usage. Right? Okay. So that's the first one. And now let's dive into some of the deeper ones. And then let me catch up on chat for a little bit, just for a minute here, and we'll go into it. Yeah, thanks, Incredible. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I cannot compete with the quantum body. Yeah. People who depend on AI are shooting themselves in the foot. Yes, we're going to cover. I'm not even going to completely answer you. We're going to get into some articles. Not you, it's me. It's going to be banger. If I have to correct an AI, I know it's a dead end. Yeah, I'm covering another one today, Laughably. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going then. Exploring the evidence-based beliefs of LLM-based programming assistants. Okay, so I had to read this one thoroughly. The next three I read, I'm not kidding, I read the entire thing. I'm going to summarize the findings as best as I can. I am but a human. I am imperfect. So if you shouldn't just trust me. I'm doing my best here, but I realize that I might not understand all of the terms and stuff. I often try and look up all the terms. Anyways, I just want you to be aware that I might get some of this wrong in terms of at least minutia. You're more than capable of opening this up and reading it for yourself and fact checking me. Okay. In fact, I encourage you to do so. You should be doing it. However, based on what I understood of this paper, having read it in full, what they did was they took AI programming assistants like Cursor, like Visual Studio Code, or like not exactly those development environments. It's literally the LLMs that are integrated into them. And what they looked at was how these things operate when they make auto-completion or answer questions that you prompt them as part of your development workflow. So if you're typing away and it auto-completes some code, how did the LLM come to that programming-based solution to give you an autocomplete suggestion? How did it come to the solution it did with regards to code it generated as part of a prompt you gave it, in terms of code it thinks that you should be using? Now, what the short of it, not the long of it, just the short of it, is that they looked at the underlying mechanisms as best as one can, because it's difficult to do that, right? And somewhere here, let me just find training data. Okay, so some interesting things out of this, all right? Let me zoom in. AI models themselves cannot believe. So this is something I covered before in a previous scientific article. There was, okay, let me just pause here because this sentence alone is something to unpack. So I want you to understand something. A previous scientific article talked about the anthropomorphization of AI as leading to biased research on other AI scientific articles. Literally, I can't remember which episode. You're welcome to go back on my live tab. It's on the Daily Tech News stream. I literally covered this. And if you join my Discord, mods, if you would be so kind as to type in Bang Discord for the viewers, it's just literally Bang Discord. I have a channel that lists all of the articles I've ever gone on literally every Daily Tech News episode. So you're more than welcome to jump on Discord, and you can go to that channel. I can direct you to it, or some friendly person on Discord can do that. And I cover all of these articles so that it's as easy as it possibly can be for you to go back. Okay, so this scientific article said, here's the problem. We use anthropomorphic terms for AI, like anthropomorphic terms like believe, thinking, reasoning, and in particular, in that scientific article, it was the term reasoning. And what they discovered by doing a meta-analysis of other AI scientific articles was that researchers who are researching AI and coming up with AI conclusions about AI based on that scientific research are pre-biased to think about how AI operates because they, they imbue anthropomorphic properties to AI through anthropomorphic terms. When I tell you that an AI believes something, when an AI lies to you or deceives you, or when an AI reasons about its conclusion, you automatically put that in human terms and you apply that to the AI, whether you want to do so or not. That's a different question. Some people can't help themselves, and this happens in the scientific research field for AI. So right off the bat, we should really stop using these terms. They smuggle in human type attributes that do not exist in these AI systems. So right there in the first sentence, AI systems themselves cannot believe, as their output relies on models and training data. Our method to collect LLM beliefs relies on prompting, and we use this term for technical convenience and not as an analysis of real belief. Okay, so this is one of the rare few scientific articles I've actually read where they break that down and go, look, when we say belief, this is how we mean it. This was great. Okay, so then what they discovered is that a vast majority of the time, let me see if I can find the chart right here. This is the chart. A vast majority of the time, at least half the time, these models base their answers. I just want you to consider this. They base their answers on training data. In other words, let me put it in different words for you. When an AI model has to consider what would be a good answer to a programming question, or what would be a good autocomplete for something that you're typing away, the method by which it receives its answer is not through belief, it's not through evidence, it's not through reasoning. And they even talk about evidence, a lack of evidence for these LLM beliefs. What they discovered is that the LLMs will do sometimes no research. That's how you gather evidence to support a logical argument you might make. You do your research, right? LLMs do this less than half the time. The rest of the time, they're mostly dependent on training data. Do you know what that means? Can anybody guess what that's actually saying? If an LLM is basing its answers on training data, that necessarily means that it's basing its answers on pre-existing answers. That's what that means. That's not reasoning. That's not logical flow. That's not research. That's not evidence. That's pre-chewed answers as part of its training, and it's leveraging that to give you an answer. Right at its face, this means that there are some serious issues with these LLMs giving you autocomplete or code generation, and it's why they suck so much. At least part. It's not the entirety of it, but at least in part, this is why LLMs cannot be trusted for code generation, and when they are trusted, they tend to generate insecure, again, that's another scientific study I've gone over, Vast amounts of code is generated with no security, and they will leak your data, and they'll do all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of ways that this can go wrong, and this is just part of it. And they talk about the evidence-based stuff here if you want to read it. So there's no way for AI to present evidence because it has none for its conclusions. And then they go, and in my opinion, this is the proof that LLMs are using training data. This portion of the article does not make that finger point directly. And I think that they did this correctly. I think this is the right way to handle this paragraph, because it's an objective statement. We conducted a conceptual replication of previous work exploring the beliefs of software engineers at Microsoft, substituting LLM-based programming assistants for humans. And when they asked the questions that they asked LLMs to humans at Microsoft, the answers were very similar. However, this just proves that the LLMs are probably, in a vast majority of cases, more than 50% of cases, basing their answers on training data, because training data comes from humans. Right? So right off the bat, anybody who's selling you LLMs as some kind of... It's absolutely mind-boggling that streamers and influencers who might not be streamers, by the way, because you can be an influencer online and not be a streamer, sell you and peddle this shit. There is no cognitive, there's no logical consistency here. Anyways, okay. Yeah, Incredible says he highly agrees. He's been facepalming. Yeah. They're assuming the answer instead of doing live research or reasoning. I've had to deal with this exact problem many times. Working with ChatGPT in the past couple of months, assuming is the wrong word. It's predicting the most probable answer based on prior answers instead of researching. Correct. Yeah, there you go. So that's why I say, if you're going to use them, the best likelihood of success, which sometimes does come out of these models, is to automatically assume that everything they tell you is wrong. If you start with that assumption and you put in the effort to confirm everything it says, there are times when it can be beneficial, when an LLM can be beneficial to your workflow. 100%. Okay. Like 10% of the time, it works 100% of the time. Next. All right. Now, when it comes to complexity, I thought this was very interesting. So I've said this before, I've covered other scientific studies. The more complex the problem space that the LLM has to solve, the more dramatic its decline, or the decline in its capability to actually answer that question. The impact of large language models on open source innovation, evidence from GitHub Copilot. So GitHub Copilot is an autocomplete system, essentially. It's now become like an AI integration system into your GitHub repositories. So the abstract here is enough to get the sense of what's going on, although you're welcome to read the data. They did go over actually a bunch of data in terms of GitHub repositories. So they looked at the number of contributions that were done on GitHub repositories given a generally reasonable array of programming languages and problem spaces and contributor counts and things like this. They looked at the long term. So here's what they did. Let me see. Right here. We observe a significant jump in overall contributions, suggesting that LLMs effectively augment collaborative innovation in an unguided setting. Interestingly, Copilot's launch increased iterative innovation focused on maintenance-related or feature-refining contributions. I'll pause there. What What did they just describe? What would be an iterative innovation focused on maintenance related or feature refining contributions? What have we been talking about? Narrow scoped, right? Narrow scoped problems. Significantly more than it did capability innovation through code development or feature introducing commits. So when you narrow the scope, the output of the LLMs tends to add to contributions, code contributions. It tends to increase the collaboration in terms of code contributions. Now, DDAVR literally just said in 2 words what I was going to take a longer time saying, code churn. So even when you narrow the scope of Copilot, fine, it can help with increasing the number of overall contributions and perhaps collaboration, but it also means code churn. This disparity between narrow scoped problems and new feature problems or bigger scoped problems was more pronounced after the model upgrade in June 2022 and was evident in active projects with extensive coding activity, suggesting that as both LLM capabilities and or available contextual information improve, the gap between capability and iterative innovation may widen. The word usage here makes it sound a little bit confusing because you go, as capabilities improve, something gets worse. Like, where's the disconnect here? Here's what it means. And this is a chart I covered, I believe it was on Friday, going over the last few years of LLM improvements as charted out. And there is a plateau, or well, not a plateau, but there is a very apparent diminishing returns in the LLM, let's say, quality of output since 2023 up to now. This is a separate scientific study that literally adds to that chart that I went over. So as LLMs improve, and so I think what they're doing is they're taking a verbiage that these AI companies are using to say that their models have had some improvement in some capacity. And so you put it under a catch-all term called improve. As the LLMs improve, their ability to handle more complicated tasks, such as new features or new code generation, versus handling tasks that are narrower in scope, widens. That means they become worse in that respect. And we're going to trust these LLMs with code generation, and we're going to have people who say, I'm not going to trash talk AI for generating bad code anymore. Now, here is why it's a particularly, let's say, egregious thing for someone like Primogen, who literally did say this twice, I believe. Primogen said, when AI generates bad code, it's because it's doing exactly what you prompted it to do. It's literally taking your prompt and answering that prompt directly. Let me boil it down for you into what he's really saying. It's your fault that AI can't generate code because you didn't prompt it correctly. And yet, on these streams, I go over study after study showing that these things are fundamentally flawed. And instead of me telling you you should prompt better, I'm telling you you should have a full amount of skepticism if you're going to use these things, and then you might see some success out of them, maybe. It has nothing to do with whether you prompted it. It has nothing to do with the quality of your ability to, manually massage the LLM. These things are fundamentally flawed. And anybody who tells you otherwise is bullshitting you and is not to be trusted because they're selling you something. Imagine telling people it's your prompting that's the problem. That's why you get bad outputs. Let's continue. I have 2 more. Now, if you're going to if you're going to make an argument against me about how AIs are meeting and surpassing their benchmarks, well, I have a study for you. Assessing and advancing benchmarks for evaluating large language models in software engineering tasks. So essentially what they did is, this is a meta study, I guess if you want to call it that, although you can't really call it that. They took 291 benchmarks, which are used to benchmark how well an LLM does. So for all the benchmark bros who are coming at me going, well, but these things pass their benchmarks, we're going to look at what these benchmarks actually contain. And this is a more critical view of these benchmarks. So I'm going to jump ahead to some sections because, again, I've read this one in full, and these are the points that stand out to me the most. So it doesn't honestly really matter the type of benchmark. There are different types of benchmarks that benchmark for different kinds of things, including code-based ones, but they covered several. So let's see what they found as some of the limitations of these benchmarks, because that's essentially what they were going into it with. Are there limitations to these benchmarks? How accurate can these benchmarks, or how much can these benchmarks be trusted? So here's the first one: lack of sufficient benchmarks. Since software requirements are confidential assets of a company, it is difficult for typical researchers to access actual software requirements. So you can imagine a benchmark being generated for an LLM based on some requirements where you do not know the actual requirements in real life. You have to make them up. Many current studies related to RE still focus primarily on using software requirements constructed a long time ago, and we're talking in some cases software requirements coming from 10 to 20 years ago, such as those from Promise and Pure. However, these ubiquitous RE benchmarks on one hand cannot comprehensively evaluate the performance of LLMs, and on the other hand may not represent real industrial data. So on the one hand, you can't have a good evaluation of LLMs, and you can't even represent real data. So it's bad in two ways. Challenges in creating a unified benchmark. Well, obviously this is a problem, because how are you going to create a benchmark that asks questions that are requirements of a typical software company that encompasses the vast majority of things you see as requirements in software companies? These things are nuanced. So right at its face, these benchmarks already have a serious problem. They have to essentially be made up in order to get to where they are. Automated code generation and recommendation systems supported by code-related LLMs have become integral. Okay, now, these scenarios, context, which is essentially the ability or the memory for the LLM to put into its memory the context of the code that it needs to tackle and give you an answer on. The domain, which is the problem space that you're trying to solve. And then the task, which is what is the problem, right? So you have to look at the surrounding problems and solutions. You have to have enough memory, and then you have to bring it all in together, into here is the answer. Okay. And so they go into these things, they describe all of this stuff. So these are some of the limitations on these kinds of things. Over-reliance on pass at K and execution-based metrics. So pass at K is an evaluation metric. It honestly doesn't really matter what it is. You can look it up. It's just something that was kind of pulled out of a series of evaluation metrics that have been scientifically studied in the past. And they were, they provided references to them. And this is what these benchmarks adopt as an evaluation metric. It solely measures whether generated code passes a predefined set of test cases. This often overlooks partial correctness, code quality, and semantic nuance, and is sensitive to the number and diversity of test cases, which means in some of these benchmarks, the more test cases you add as part of your benchmarking, the worse the output is. Yeah. Yes. Limited diversity of tasks and contexts. Existing benchmarks predominantly focus on short, isolated programming tasks, for example, function-level Python coding. There is a lack of coverage for real-world software engineering scenarios, such as multi-file projects, GUI or API development, or maintenance-oriented tasks. Insufficient coverage of programming languages and paradigms. Most benchmarks target high resource imperative languages like Python, Java, and C++. Functional, logic-based, and domain-specific languages like Rust, Prolog, and Verilog remain underrepresented, limiting the generalizability of evaluation results. Shallow reasoning and low-level semantics. Benchmarks often fail to capture deeper logical reasoning, algorithmic insight, or mathematical precision. Few benchmarks evaluate symbolic reasoning, problem decomposition, or invariant preservation. Label noise and ground truth ambiguity. Some benchmarks rely on mined or auto-aligned ground truth solutions, which can be noisy or incomplete. For example, there may be multiple valid implementations for a task, but benchmarks assume a single correct reference or oracle. So you might have something that you can validly accomplish in a variety of different ways, but some benchmarks bring in only one correct way to do it. And then they go pass. Lack of human-centric evaluation dimensions. Code generation quality also involves readability, maintainability, efficiency, and developer satisfaction, which are difficult to capture through automated metrics alone. So this remains unaddressed. Let's keep going. It's not over. Let's go, I think it's 3. Yeah. Continuing the limitations of other types of benchmarking. So some of these benchmarkings are similar in that they consist only of handcrafted programming problems in Python. That's right. And thus cannot be directly used to systematically evaluate the performance of multi-language software testing. In addition, these problems are simple, single-function generation tasks that do not match actual development scenarios. There is a language limitation. Some of these only focus on Java programs. There is a project selection bias. While several of the above benchmarks contain a variety of Java projects, the selection may not cover the full range of real-world applications, including niche ones, for example. Or it may favor well-maintained projects and may overlook more complex and less frequently updated projects. Let's keep going. A significant issue is the rise of benchmark data contamination, where the overlap between the training data and the test data leads to inflated performance metrics. This is called data leakage. Due to the lack of retraining capabilities and inaccessibility to the pre-training data of many LLMs, it's impossible to determine how much this leakage has an effect on the benchmarks. Despite the fact that we have a vast amount of log data available, existing benchmarks in log parsing, or LLMs parsing logs, typically focus on a limited set of well-known and popular software. In log statement generation, the context window of 512 tokens means that there is a very limited output that these LLMs can give when they are looking at generating logs for you or parsing logs. Let's keep going. There's only a few more on this one. Again, we have data leakage between training data and testing data. So because you cannot retrain it and you don't have accessibility to the pre-training data, it's challenging to assess the extent of benchmark data contamination. So you don't even know how contaminated these benchmarks are. Then there's the absence of comprehensive measures to evaluate the accuracy of predictions. So kind of describing what it was describing before, which is there are many different factors that have to be evaluated for how well something got generated by an LLM, and it's just not comprehensive enough. Let's go to the last few bits here. I think it's 9.1.4. Yes. Current benchmarks lack diversity in the types of bugs they cover. Datasets exhibit an uneven distribution of bug types and project contexts. A significant portion of existing research is based on a few amount of programming languages. Simplified scenarios are used for testing these benchmarks. Data contamination, vulnerabilities, such as the generation of vulnerabilities by these things, right? So let's go to 9.2.4. Okay, so hang on, 9.2.4 here. The quality of the data, right? So how well was the training data, like how accurate or how well was the training data put? We have no real way to determine that. How well does it represent real world scenarios? It doesn't. Okay, and so this then is the summary of everything they found with these benchmarks. Unclear task definitions. You cannot scale these benchmarks to real-world environments. They are overfitted, which means models overfit tasks in order to get that check mark. There are benchmark updates that have not been updated in a long time. And then there are data concerns like privacy concerns, security concerns, generated code security concerns, etc. So, when the benchmark bros come up to me and go, but look at all the benchmarks that these AI systems are passing, clearly this is evidence that AI is going to take out large swaths of the industry. No, it's not. You're buying into hype and marketing material. And now, for the coup de grace. This is why I am particularly upset with people like Primogen in particular today, but it could be anybody tomorrow. When they tell you that it's okay for you to use AI because they've sold their principles, because they're a weak human character in that respect, to companies that have bought them. Unlike those people, I actually give a shit about the world that I have to live in and the world that my kid and my family have to grow up in. And I give a shit about the world that you have to live in and that your kids have to grow up in. I actually give a shit about these things. These things matter to me. So when I see something that will necessarily, proven time and time again, cause massive detrimental harm, and I've often equated certain harm that programming and code and hardware can generate at a global scale to the equivalent thing of a nuclear bomb in some respects. When I see that kind of harm, and then I see people bullshitting you and feeding you these lies that are actually going to harm you, yeah, fuck it. I'm not going to be nice about it. The time for niceness is over. Fuck all of these people. I'm not going to be nice about it anymore because these things have serious problems. And this paper in particular, holy shit. So buckle up. We're in for a fucking ride. I am almost 100% certain you have seen this paper out in the social media sphere or on the internet somewhere. Your brain on ChatGPT, accumulation of cognitive debt when using an AI assistant for essay writing task. All right. Now, we're going to read a little bit of the beginning, and then we're going to read part of the discussion. I have read this paper in full, and I will tell you that there is something hidden in this paper that nobody else has mentioned. As far as I know, maybe someone else has. Who am I to know the entirety of the internet and how many different people have covered this paper in a variety of different ways? But at least so far as I have seen, because I've looked at several, I don't know, probably more than 10 or 12 people online who have done like a deep dive and then they come up with conclusions and stuff. I haven't seen anybody cover the thing that's hidden in here, but there are some things I'm going to cover that are very apparent and everybody's covered because it's the big haha, about these things. All right. Give me 1 second. Okay. So what they did I'll give you the short of it, all right? What they did, they literally took an EEG scan of people's brains. And they had 3 groups. They took these 3 groups, and the goal of the 3 groups was the same. Here is a topic of whatever it is. I want you to write me an essay on this topic. One group was called the brain-only group. Obviously, it's pretty clear what that means. The second group was the search and brain group, which means that they were allowed to go on Google and search up information in order to form their essay. The third group was the LLM only group. As they participated in the task of writing essays, they looked at the brain activity via EEG. So, what was the outcome of this? Let's read a little bit. So, the LLM group, search engine group, brain-only group, right? Write an essay. We conducted 3 sessions with the same group for each participant. In the 4th session, we asked LLM group participants to use no tools. We refer to them as the LLM to brain, and the brain-only group participants we asked to use LLM. So at the end, they didn't just say, go ahead and write the essay, brain-only, search engine, LLM, but now let's flip them. Let's now take the brain-only group and make them use an LLM, and let's take the LLM-only group and make them only use their brain and see what happens then. You can imagine. I'm not giving away the lead here because I think you guys understand what's going on here, right? We discovered a consistent homogeneity across the named entities, recognition, engrams, ontology of topics within each group. So this would be the number of terms people are using when they're writing their essays, which kind of give you a sense of how much neural plasticity went into writing the essay because of the terms being used within the essay. That's my understanding of it. I could be wrong about that. EEG analysis presented robust evidence that LLM, search engine, and brain-only groups had significantly different neural connectivity patterns reflecting divergent cognitive strategies. Brain connectivity systematically scaled down with the amount of external support. The brain-only group exhibited the strongest, widest-ranging brain networks. Search engine group showed intermediate engagement, and LLM assistance elicited the weakest overall coupling. In session 4, which is when they flipped people around to have to use LLM or not, LLM to brain, so previously LLM, now fully brain participants showed weaker neural connectivity and under-engagement of alpha and beta networks, and the brain to LLM participants demonstrated higher memory recall and re-engagement of widespread occipitoparietal and prefrontal nodes, likely supporting the visual processing similar to the one frequently perceived in the search engine group. The reported ownership of LLM group's essays in the interview was low. The search engine group had strong ownership, but lesser than the brain-only group. The LLM group also fell behind in their ability to quote from the essays they wrote just minutes prior. I am going to reread two things. I want you to take this away. I'm not going to explain the answer to you, but we're going to get to the answer of it, right? Just stick with me here. When the LLM to brain participants went from LLM to brain, their ability to use particular portions of their brain did not come back. When the LLM group was asked to quote their own essay from mere minutes prior to the creation of said essay via their LLM prompting, they failed to do so. Let's continue, shall we? And by the way, okay, I spent an inordinate amount of time reading this shit for you guys. Tip me. Exclamation mark tip. Okay, I do this out of my own time. Okay? Let's go here. Now I'm going to read this almost in whole because there's something hidden in here. Again, I want to bring out. The results of our study offer several intriguing insights into the differences in cognitive and performance outcomes and essay writing tasks for 54 participants who used LLMs such as ChatGPT, traditional web search, or were tools-free over a span of 4 sessions per participant over a period of 4 months. We found that the brain-only group exhibited strong variability in how participants approached essay writing across most topics. In contrast, the LLM group produced statistically homogeneous essays within each topic, showing significantly less deviation compared to the other groups. Let me summarize this for you, shall we? Because those are a bunch of big words that I too had to look up because I'm a high school dropout who's self-taught. Okay, literally a high school dropout reading scientific papers. I had to go look up, understand what the hell they're saying here. Essentially what they're saying is this. When you look at the essays that were written by the brain-only group, you saw a lot of diversity in how these people approached the topic. They had different takes, different ideas, different terminology, different structure, etc. When you look at the people who used LLMs, it was almost the same across the board. Same terminology, same attack vectors to the ideas, same structure, same, whatever you want to call it, like a type of thinking behind it. Okay. The search engine group was likely, at least in part, influenced by the content that was promoted and optimized by a search engine. And now we're getting to some of the stuff that people I don't think have picked up on in this paper. It's not just LLMs that manipulate your brain. This is very, very interesting. Pay attention. Therefore, the keywords used by the search engine group to promote specific ideas within each topic were likely influenced more by the participants' own queries than by the prompts provided in the LLM group. Thanks for the bits there, One Allergen. I appreciate it, man. And by the way, I'm just, I'm joking about the tip thing. I'm happy, absolutely happy and grateful if you decide to help me out financially. That means a lot. But I absolutely understand, as previously homeless, what it's like to part with $5. I'm not kidding. I've been there. $5 is one meal for a day to get you by when you're poor, and I get it. So yeah, take care of yourself and your family first. All right. So let me keep reading. I think I've kind of dropped the premise here. Another interesting tidbit. In the brain-only group, interestingly, in the brain-only group, the social media influence found its way around. Here's a quote from one of the essays. So why are we not talking about it on Instagram, for example? I just want you to consider I just want you to think about what this is saying. The brain-only group somehow found a way to integrate social media as part of its essay. I want you to ask the question, why? And I want you to consider if already what we've read in this paper alone gives you an indication as to why. Just take a minute and think about that. Now, let's keep going. In our NLP analysis, we discovered that the LLM group used the most of the specific named entities, such as persons, names, places, years, definitions, while the search engine group used at least 2 times less, and the brain-only group used the least amount. This is completely, you could have seen this coming. Across the essays written by different groups, one can likely observe propagation of biases used in the training data of the LLM, or advertisements in a search engine, or human biases, like getting an education in the same environment but with different cultural, linguistic, and other backgrounds. I'm purposefully not answering the questions and what you guys are saying about what I'm asking here, because as we continue to read this, the answer becomes abundantly clear, in my personal opinion. So I'm literally avoiding chat right now, answering chat, because the answer becomes more and more clear the more you read this damn paper. The prompts and queries used by participants sequentially impacted how participants structured ontology and semantics of the essays. So I just want to make this clear. There are biases in the training data of the LLM. People were influenced by the advertisements in the search engine. And then you have human biases. Few participants relied less on the LLM's opinion in the topics like philanthropy and forethought. And in other topics like art and perfect, participants behaved differently based on the analyzed prompts and interviews. Interestingly, several participants used languages other than English, Spanish, and Portuguese, but eventually ended up with the English essays that were not very different from others within the same LLM group and same topic. The search engine group participants were more prone to experience the filter bubble in their search results. Participants in the LLM and search engine groups were more inclined to focus on the output of the tools they were using because of the added pressure of limited time, 20 minutes. Most of them focused on reusing the tool's output, therefore staying focused on copying and pasting content rather than incorporating their own original thoughts and editing those with their own perspectives and their own experiences. We found the LLM group had a bias of higher probability of third-person address forms and focusing on career aspects. This is very, very interesting. Again, this is very hidden stuff that people aren't bringing out. I just want to state this again, okay? The LLM group had a higher bias of third person and focusing on career aspects. If we look at engrams and topics more closely, for example, philanthropy, we can see the search engine group was heavily leaning into using homeless-based engrams. However, the LLM group is focused around the giving aspect. I want to state this again, and I want to leave it as a temporary exercise to the viewer. What is this actually telling you? I'm asking this question. Please put on your brain for a minute, and I'm going to read this again, and I want you to piece this together. This is very deep shit that is being revealed here, and people haven't picked up on this. When the topic of the essay is philanthropy, if you use the search engines, you're going to get homeless-based material. If you use the LLMs, you're going to get giving-based material. Do you get what's happening? Do you see? According to according to Google Keywords Planner data, which is, keywords are the keywords that you use to rank yourself in search engine optimization. So if you put particular types of keywords in your website, then you're going to rank better or maybe worse, right? we can see the bid size around $7 per ad placement for both Giving and Homeless. However, Homeless has almost a 900% increase in monthly searches compared to Giving. Same for Charities, but the bid price for Charities is triple, around $23 per ad placement. And we can see in figure 92, which is down here, okay, that chart, the trending of Giving is much higher across the Google search according to Google Trends. It is likely that the search engine group experienced a bias from the tool and was susceptible to the tool's output. Do you guys understand what this paper is fucking saying? Interestingly, right here, let's keep reading. The brain-only group touched more on the freedom, liberty parts, while the search engine and LLM groups focused more on the justice aspects. Do you guys understand what is being said here? I'm going to read it again. Interestingly, the brain-only group touched more on the freedom, liberty parts, while the search engine and LLM groups focused more on the justice aspects. Again, I'm purposefully not engaging with chat because I'm going to tie this in at the end. There's going to be a rant coming at the end, okay? So, when then the AI was used to judge the work that was done by these groups, human judges were capable of discerning the difference between these essays, non-surprisingly, much, much better than AI judges. That, I don't think, is a surprising thing. Now, the EEG goes into some very, very interesting details. And what they did was they looked at the brain activity of all of these things as they were engaging. The more external support you have when you're tackling problems, the less connective systemic scale you have in your brain. LLMs were the weakest overall coupling in their brain activity. The LLM group had less than 50 or had more than 55 or up to 55% reduced total brain capacity. However, the search engine group had something very interesting. They exhibited increased activity in the occipital and visual cortices. In other words, as the search engine group used the search engine, they were looking at visual information because, of course, if you're going to go Google something, you're going to see images, right? And so that affects a different portion of your brain as you're reading in that visual information. So they had a little bit of an advantage there because there was a different mechanism in their brain that they got to exercise as doing the search engine-based essay creation. However, the brain-only group won by a massive factor. When it comes to neural plasticity or neural connectivity, etc., the brain-only group won hands down. It wasn't even a competition. The search engine group did benefit a little bit more than the other groups because they had that visual feedback, which did aid in their ability to deconstruct ideas and come up with other ideas. And essentially what the EEG stuff on the search engine group showed was that there is some positive impact to having visual markers, because what you do is when you have a topic and you see something visually, okay, you can generate visuals in your mind's eye, so to speak, in your own imagination, where you map visuals you've seen, like daily life stuff that you see in real life, pictures you see as part of your search engine results, whatever it is, and you can map those things to other visuals you generate as part of your essay creation process. So there is some benefit to having those visual markers. That's not bad, okay? However, when it came time to look at the brain connectivity or brain structure over, I believe by the time they got to session 4, it was, I think, 2 months after. I'm pretty sure it was 2 months after. It's somewhere in here, session 4. I can't see. I swear somewhere in here it said it was like session 4 was like at the end of the thing. It was 2 months after. So anyways, right here in this section, when they looked at the brains of all these people during session 4 and I believe post session 4, which was the span of a few months, the brain connectivity on search engine and LLM only groups did not recover. And they proved it because brain-only groups that were then forced to have, oh yeah, here we go, right? And so you can see they actually like look at the brain activity during session 4 and whether they improved, like whether stepping away from AI made some kind of marked improvement, like maybe the brain kind of like fixes itself. The improvement was negligible for search engine and for LLM. However, for brain to LLM, they had the best outcome because they had an initial brain capacity that they practiced and used that they could then use LLM as supplementary to that. And what they discovered here, I believe it's down here, when a person steps in, it's right here. So they say this is preliminary. A larger participant sample is needed to confirm the claims. But essentially this gray area here says, when you enter into a topic and you rely on something else to teach you about that topic, especially LLMs, you are going to incur what's called cognitive debt, which means that you cannot generate the thinking that is required to let you be non-dependent if you start with LLMs and a little bit search engine, but not exactly, without having some pre-knowledge about what's going on. You are going to suffer that cognitive debt in some cases indefinitely. Your brain structure might not be able to recover from the fact that you suffered from cognitive debt. However, and you can see cognitive debt refers to mental effort in the short term, but results in long-term costs, such as diminished critical inquiry, increased vulnerability to manipulation, decreased creativity. When participants reproduce suggestions without evaluating their accuracy or relevance, they not only forfeit ownership of the ideas, but also risk internalizing shallow or biased perspectives. However, what they did discover is that if they ask somebody who is from the brain-only group and They had previous knowledge of the essay topic. And then they use LLMs, or then they use search engines. They have far better outcomes and success rates. Why? Because they have the prerequisite knowledge to question the output. They have a basis upon which to value judge the thing they're seeing. Therefore, their brain is primed, it's prepped to understand what's being fed to them by these tools. Yeah, one allergen is recovering from being an AI simp. Yeah. Okay. What's up, Kiwi on YouTube? Yes. Now I have a rant. I have a big fucking rant. I need to take a sip. What do you guys think this means? Okay. Having read this now, I asked a bunch of questions, right? I asked you guys to think for yourselves based on the output of these topics. What do you guys think this shit means? A lot of you got it right. I think all of you got it right. Honestly, all the comments I've seen are like spot on. You guys got it right. Obviously, what does this mean? Let me prep for the rant, and then that'll close off this Daily Tech News stream, which, by the way, is episode 69. So it's an epic Daily Tech News stream. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm ready, boys. Is this the longest episode yet so far? Here we go. I'm declaring war. I've had it with AI simps. I've had it with AI shills. I've had it with streamers who are sellouts, who perpetuate the most moronic fucking ideas known on planet Earth in the tech industry. Influencers online who peddle this shit, who do not give a shit about anybody or anyone but themselves and their short-term money gains and the stuff that they can kick down the road for someone else to solve. I'm declaring war on these AI companies. I'm declaring war on the executives, managers, and any programmer who dares to make a defense for any of this shit, for all of the stupid decisions that the tech industry has been making the last 10 to 20 years, and for AI itself, which is just a boxed up version of all these stupid decisions, which are now capable of being generated more and in lower quality. If you are going to make a defense for the tech industry such as it is today, if you're going to make a defense for abstractions, obfuscations, paradigms, trust the expert bro, any of these kind of stupid things, and you're going to do so without any logical arguments, without any logical entailments, without the necessary knowledge of second, third, fourth order effects, without any consideration to security, without any consideration to other people's lives around you, if you're going to make anecdotal claims or you're just going to make claims based on vibes, I am officially at war with you. I do not care how big you are. I do not care what you do to me, because if I stay silent on this topic anymore, it's going to mean a very negative outcome for the people I care and love about. And that includes people who are in chat who, generally speaking, don't deserve the bullshit that you're about to unleash on this world. And it's fast fucking approaching. The time for being nice, the time for being kind, the time for being considerate and gentle and soft and catering to developer experience and developers' feelings, that time has sailed. Bye-bye that time. The time for being an absolute Giga Chad and calling people out with logical arguments and the information that I have spent months building up over a year's worth of catalog now on my Enlightened Programming and Daily Tech News streams. I am now fully prepared to go to war, and therefore I am declaring said war. Watch the fuck out, because I'm coming for you. That means that there is a Primogen get fucked video coming very soon. And I will continue to be calling these people out. I don't care. And here's some public exposure about my own personal circumstances. I am not bought by anyone. I barely have enough work to put food on the table right now. I have one contract that I will not speak of that generally keeps me afloat. I do not have any sponsorships. You can see my tip jar has been at $68 for a long time. I have nothing to lose and everything to gain. The only thing I have to lose is my future and the future of everyone around me. And I really give a shit about that future. Fuck you if you think that I'm going to stand by and say nothing. After this paper, which by the way, I've spent a long time planning. I've had this in my back pocket for a while. I have been planning a lot of this for a long time. The gloves are now off. I'm coming for you. This paper exposed something that very few people are willing to talk about. For a long time, the tech industry has not just been in shambles because it does not know how to write quality software, quality websites, quality video games. The tech industry has ideologized the industry. It is now an ideological and political battleground. It is no longer a battleground of code and performance and security. It has been captured by mostly leftist ideology. The paper on ChatGPT that we just went through right now, we literally just discussed how advertising in search engines is literally changing the brain connectivity as you engage with this tool. Do you honestly want me to believe that this is the first time that people are suddenly realizing that advertising on search engines leads you to have more ideas on things like justice as opposed to freedom and liberty? Do you honestly think that people didn't know about this in the past? Do you honestly expect me to believe that LLMs just inadvertently come up with things like the term that they used, which I can't remember off the top of my head right now, as opposed to freedom and liberty? You don't think that that's been at play for a long time before these LLMs even existed? Don't give me that bullshit. I'm not buying it anymore. These things are political, ideologized weapons. Rust is a great example of this because it is an overt use of this tool. They are overtly telling you that they want to safely transition you from C to Rust to overthrow existing power hierarchies and overtake the graybeards who are gatekeeping. This is all ideologized bullshit. This paper proves that this shit works. Now, I want you to imagine that you're someone out there, ambiguous, amorphous blob, who that is, take your pick, and you know this stuff, and you've known it for a long time. What do you think the likelihood is, if you have any amount of money and power, that you are going to use these tools to benefit yourself? So you know what that means? That means I'm going to be doing deep dives into Palantir. That means I'm going to be doing deep dives into some of these companies that have, let's say, buddied up with other companies that might be shocking to find out who they're buddied up with, including internally in governments that you might not want to admit do this stuff, like America and Canada. That means my field, my playground of attacking this bullshit is anyone and everyone. You're all about to get fucked. And the last year and some months of building up this content has been leading up to this moment. So the very next video that I'm going to be releasing is a video that I'm going to be extracting out of Normal America Rob Noor's video of a live stream I did. I went on and I laid out the foundational aspects from beginning to end, essentially, and jumped through a few points to lay out this entire premise. He was the first person to have me on and interview me about the entire thing. I spent 2 hours going over it all with receipts. I'm going to take that video. I'm going to slice it up. I already have his permission. I asked for permission to do this, and I'm going to post it. It's going to be part of the Enlightened programming stream, I think. I haven't decided that yet. But the gloves are off. Fuck you if you think I'm going to be nice and safe about all of this shit anymore. I'm done. I have nothing to lose. I have everything to gain. If you would like to support me, hit the like and subscribe, repost, reshare, all that good stuff. This is the only place, I'm not joking when I say this is the only place where you're going to hear this shit. Nobody else is covering it like I'm covering it. And I'm doing it at my own expense and at my own cost. Because I care. Join my Discord. Go onto my YouTube. Etc., etc. Do all that. And I will continue, as long as you guys continue supporting me, I will continue doing this. That's it. That's it. That's all I had. Okay. So, psychology plays an aspect. I mean, yeah. Psychology does play an aspect, but people know this, right? And they use technology as being wielded as a tool to essentially control you. It has no place. The argument is really simple. Ideology has no place in this space. It simply doesn't. You're here to create code, and you're here to create code that would maximally performantly run on a piece of hardware. That, like, ultimately and securely, that's what it comes down to. Your ideology doesn't matter. Your background doesn't matter. None of that matters. It's all about the code and accomplishing goals with that code as best as possible. That's it. But for too long, we've just accepted that these things are being wielded. This space is being wielded as a tool against you. Enough. It's over. It's done. That's it. I wish you would just tell us what you really think. I know. All right, so I don't know if I'm going to be on for the Daily Tech News tomorrow. I'm not sure. There's stuff that I got to deal with around here. I don't know if it's going to happen. We'll see if it happens. But worst case, I'll be back Wednesday for another Daily Tech News stream. I want to do another video game stream like I did on Sunday, just like, a couple hours, just chill, not having these rants, just like you guys get to make fun of me for my stupid code. We get to kind of build out the game and stuff. We're almost I think we're at the point where we're going to start considering multiplayer on the video game, so it'll be fun. But other than that, worst case, I'll see you Wednesday. Join the Discord. You just have to type in !Discord. You can catch me online. If you want to send me articles to review or whatever, just DM me. It's open. I accept all of them. Thank you for being here. I appreciate all the support. It's been awesome. This was a great stream. I thought this was fantastic. I think I personally nailed it. All right. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. I think I did good this one. All right. This was a good one. This was a good 69 stream. Folks, stay safe out there. Okay. See you when I see you. Peace. Oh, guys. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot about the main thing here. There was a study done. It was an EEG study of all your brains. And depending on the EEG output of all your brains, all viewers in chat, there was a metric, a rubric cube about whether or not you suck based on your EEG output. So I have a list of people who suck because your EEG output was let's say, less than adequate. Incredibly Fly and Squid, you suck. Not you, it's me, you suck. D-Daver, you suck. Laughably, you suck. One Allergen, you suck. Jonathan Miller on YouTube, you suck. Josh on YouTube, you suck. CodeMatt, you suck. Kiwi on YouTube, you suck. Yeah, I have to scroll up, okay? I have to scroll up a lot in order to get... AH, you suck. Lightspeed, you suck. I gotta keep scrolling, damn it. Not you, it's me. You suck. Ghost Magic, you suck. Laughing Panda, you suck. Alpha Beta, you suck. Ross, you suck. Everyone in chat sucks. All of you suck. Your EEGs suck. Your EEGs prove it. Scientific evidence that all of you suck.